All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining for the EMCO Coordination Committee meeting. Um, Thanks for signing in. For this meeting, IMAC thought we would try to talk a lot less this time and let you all talk. But we did want to just sort of open the discussion with one general question, which is what do we hope to accomplish by December? Although Crystal reminded me in the chat of some other bit of administratava, so maybe we'll just get that out of the way first. We wondered if the coordinators are okay with us putting your name on the wiki for EMCO as a way of showing just who the coordinators are of each of these registry communities of practice. If you have objections, we'd love to hear that. We don't want to just do that without letting you know. Oops, I should be watching chat.
I also just put in a link to the infrastructure documentation that I'm going to put up on the Lyrasis wiki soon, maybe today. The documentation is drafted in the chat, and it would be good when talking about, hey, this is how we're structured. We have a coordination committee, and there's registry coordinators for each registry, having who are the registry coordinators right now and what are their email addresses seems prudent.
Okay, well, so far, no objections. That's good. Well, how about this? If IMAC doesn't receive any objections by, I don't know, in a business day tomorrow, we will just proceed and and post this info, if you don't mind. Oh, Mary's question is a good one. So could the Google group email be the contact email instead of individuals?
That's a really good idea. Yes.
I'm fine with it.
I like it because it does reduce the amount of updating that I have to do, um, which I'm in
I
favor
am
of.
all about reducing the amount of work you have to do.
And we are
And
happy to
also,
hand this email off to whoever takes it over after us.
Yeah.
yes,
And then they don't
yeah,
have to choose like which of the 5 registry coordinators should I email about this thing. That
that
seems
sounds like a
annoying. It
great
would probably
idea.
be whichever was the first one of you on the list, the unlucky first listed.
We'd have to like rotate it so it was fair or something, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Every month, okay, go back into the wiki. All right. Okay, that sounds like a workable solution. Um, I don't think that maybe I'm wrong about that. Oh, and there it is in the chat, Crystal. Um, I don't know if all of the communities of practice have something similar, but no, probably not. But we're happy to also do that instead of like naming you specifically. Um, I think let us know what your preference would be. And did you pop on for or no? Okay, just checking. Alrighty. See you.
I was just thinking to
Um,
myself, we don't have one yet, but we have
Yet. The powerful
goals.
word yet.
Yeah.
The aspirational. Yeah, that's okay. Hey, we're just getting started, folks. All right. So, we wanted to sort of have an open question, and we thought, what do we want to get done by December might be a good one. The answers are going to be different. That's okay. Um, I think every community of practice is in a different stage, and I think a lot of that is because some communities were already kind of in place, like before they became under the PCCMCO umbrella, and that gave some communities sort of a head start. That's all right. That's fine. Um, any thoughts on what you all kind of want to do with EMCO in the next 5 months or so? Or have you heard anything from members, maybe, about what they're excited to do?
I can share something from Wikidata. We have been, the community of practice has been working on building consensus around an application profile for personal names and corporate bodies. And so we have that on a wiki project page, and there has been community discussion on it. And we've had a couple of working groups. So I think our goal is to have those profiles finalized by the end of the year, certainly.
If we're lucky, I'm hoping that we can also start getting some actual projects off the ground, but I feel like there's so much of the project that still needs to be built that might not necessarily happen.
Mhm.
I think overall, like the whole community is looking for kind of guidance on this. I think there's a couple of different groups like LD4 that are really focused on the kind of underlying technology and applications, but I think the members of the cataloging community who are less involved in projects like that are kind of looking for like, if I'm just a cataloger and don't have time to be on a bunch of committees, what are like the basic things that I should be doing? And especially being, attached to PCC, kind of having some sort of place where, I don't know, that kind of links up to the PCC cataloging documentation that is like, hey, for authorities, check over here. I think would be a good sort of starting point for a lot of people. But I think we could probably get done by December.
No, that sounds way too ambitious.
She was shaking her head.
No,
Jennifer was
not-
like, no.
No. Well, so but like what could the community do to get those conversations going? And what's the appropriate fora
I
for
think-
that to happen in?
I mean, I think kind of the starting point is talking to the PCC group that does like cataloging recommendations and be like, hey, if we want to, where in your documentation does it talk about entities? Let's make sure that that documentation links to any best practices documentations that we create in this group. Because I think at the very least, like having the connections in the places that people look for help would be a good start. And even if, those connections say right now, just like the committee is meeting and discussing this, please check back for best practices later. At least it gives people a sense that there's places to look. If that makes sense. But yeah, maybe checking in with the other PCC communities and being like, where in your documentation does it mention entities? Let's throw links to our group in there.
I just had to look up in the BSR and the BIBCO participants manual where it says the thing about every I don't know, access point has to be backed up with a some sort of authority record. And I was trying to figure out how that language, well, and I didn't cite it, so I don't know what the language is, but like it was written in a way that I'm like, how does EMCO squeeze like elbow in into that? And it was a problem of how even the language was presented. It was very like heading. Well, like there's not a Wikidata heading. Like how do we
Right.
so there seems like, yeah, absolutely. I'm agreeing. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but it's a good point because I do think things like that, like heading, like what do you mean by heading? And what are these groups going to determine that means? Because a lot of, the Wikidata group, and I think we've been talking about this in the OCLC entities group as well, that, setting standards for like minimum information points that have to exist in one of these records.
Mhm.
Although we're not done with that work and are just starting that work, at least for now, being like, just putting in the check here link when it mentions things like that.
Mhm.
I mean, Lord knows half those ones on, when you go to like cataloging help on the LSC guide, it's got the links to like RDA stuff. And you're like, this is not helpful, but at least there's a link. So,
Starting to like prove the existence a little
Yes.
bit, like surface the words in the places that people are looking. So even if it is like a bullet point that says, work in progress, it's like, oh, this is new. Or, I think that's a, you know, speaking it into existence kind of thing, and getting people familiar with the fact that it's existing is a really good idea.
And I think for people who really don't have the time to be up on what these committees are doing, just putting it in front of them that like is a group that's discussing this will give people a little bit of a peace of mind.
So I'm just gonna give a quick update. I was at the PCC Policy Committee meeting today, and that's like the big group, the people who are in charge, plus committee chairs. So that's why I was there. I'm a lurker. It came up that, oh yeah, like EMCO has people who contribute, they participate as individuals, not as institutions. And that's new for PCC. And they're like, oh, we've got to figure that out. And then there was another point at which EMCO came up again, and they're like, oh, we've got to figure that out. And so I think they're very aware in the broad lever PCC that we need to start doing this integration. So I like that we're coming up with some really concrete ideas about how we can just start inserting. Because they're going to figure out the other stuff, like how does an individual join PCC instead of just whatever, like that's okay, they'll figure it out. But maybe while they're doing that, we give them something concrete to think about. Maybe I think I see a role for IMAC here in terms of being that kind of liaison between what EMCO's doing and then, hey, policy committee, we also need help with this, or going to what are they called? Standing Committee on Standards, and saying, here are some draft, I don't know, proposed changes to your documentation. Can we discuss, right? Like, I think that would be really useful thing to do. Okay, I'm reading Crystal's point. Yes, I got that one already. What will we do through the rest of the calendar year to get us there? I don't want to, okay, so I've actually seen what, because I went to the meeting, what Standing Committee on Standards is working on. They're really busy. So I feel like just putting it on their lap to figure out is not helpful for them. So what would we be doing to kind of help facilitate? Is it while folks are working on sort of that minimum viable product and doing metadata application profiles and whatever else y'all are working on? While that's happening, we also have groups working on not like the new stuff, but sort of the old stuff. Like, how do we fit back in to VCC? Do we need both things going on at the same time? Is that what I'm hearing? Like, for instance, what does EMCO mean for BibCo or Consor, I guess is what I'm saying.
I wonder how much we can kind of crowdsource amongst our committees, put out a spreadsheet and said, in your the course of your day and your regular work, if you see a place where we need to add a link, could you put it in this Word doc or spreadsheet?
Mm-hmm. That could be. It sounds easy to do. Like actually we could accomplish it, which I like. That tickles me. I like little wins. That's all I'm getting these days, but I'll take it. Small wins. Okay. Do we need the small wins, informal work, and a combination of like a formal meeting, like to review things? Or I'm trying to figure out like what structure we could help as IMAC in terms of like trying to just get this going. Um,
Wouldn't we have to have access to pages to add certain things? Is there a way to facilitate that?
okay, that was another thing they talked about at POCO today. It sounds like more and more of the PCC documentation needs to move off of LC's website, which is causing a little bit of a panic. So yes,
Jennifer, you're
but it might
frozen for
also become
me.
easier because it's going to move into a PCC owned space, and that should be
Uh-oh.
easier. Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah.
am I still here?
You're here, but okay, now you're back, I think,
I
or
froze
closer
the-
to being back.
For me, your video froze, but the audio kept going, so maybe it might make sense to turn your video off so it's less resources for your computer.
Yep, done. Okay, I think I'm back. All right, so you don't get to see me now. I don't know what happened. Sorry, y'all. Anyway. Um, mm-mm-mm. Well, in dealing with that, I totally lost my train of thought.
You were
Anyway, I
talking
yield the
about the
floor.
POCO meeting this morning, where they were
Okay,
saying that more and more of our documentation for the PCC needs to move on to the wiki rather than the PCC website, because the
right,
PCC website is administered by LC, and LC is low on bandwidth and willingness to edit the website. But we can all work on the wiki, so the wiki needs to be more heavily
right,
used.
right. There was some discussion about whether the wiki was really the best place to. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I know. We don't have another place, so this is kind of what we have. That's okay. At any rate, yes, I think EMCO can certainly start posting documents externally if you think you're ready for that. So when your metadata application profile is ready, or you've got some sort of draft minimum viable product, we've always been told by POCO that it's appropriate to put drafts of things up on the wiki and just sort of label them as this is being posted for community comment. Please contact us through this form or whatever. And just being very clear that it's like a draft. Like this isn't like the law yet. So I think that would be a great way to go. Um, at least to get some of this other work that you're doing sort of out there in front of eyeballs.
Yeah, and especially if everybody's moving their documentation, it's a great time for them to
Mhm.
add some links to it.
I don't know how hard it will be to get some of the core PCC documents edited. I think just knowing how these conversations have gone, and I'm looking at Crystal, who's been privy to these combos too. Um, these folks are very deliberate. They come from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different kinds of metadata description, and so there's always something that comes up, a what about, or that kind of discussion, right, unfolds, and which is appropriate. It's totally fine. But it can mean that, you know, BibCo and concert standards won't change overnight. I mean, that's just how it is. So I think as long as our expectations are calibrated appropriately, I think everybody will not be too disappointed. But these things can move slow, and that's all right. Have you heard any requests for training yet at all? Kind of feels really early to be saying, yeah, PCC is ready to train EMCO, do EMCO training. It doesn't mean much of anything yet because EMCO is too diverse a community, but
Was something like that mentioned at the last Wikidata community of practice meeting, Mary? I think maybe Prue mentioned that folks had been interested.
Prue mentioned that, and I believe in another Wikidata meeting earlier this summer, there were some other colleagues from Australia who I guess they're thinking of using Wikidata as more of a NACO light. So they were wondering when more training and documentation on Wikidata itself would be available. That being said, I don't think that we're ready at this point to do anything like that because we're still trying to figure out what we're doing.
We got a request in the second Wikidata working group meeting for PCC, or not PCC, I'm sorry, Wiki project page creation. And so we've been talking about folding that into other sorts of training that LD4 that have dovetailed with the LD4 community and the Wikidata affinity group there. So that's platform specific, I guess.
Right, and going back to Crystal's point and to what Mara's saying, there is so much good training and documentation out there already that the other thing is we don't want to jump into building training materials until we have a better idea of what exists and what the community might actually need. If we're lucky, maybe it can just be a nice list of links to other places where the training or documentation has already been created.
I had a manager who, if you would ask a question about something and then because you're the one who asked the question, you got to assemble the thing that you asked about for everyone else. And this feels like one of those situations where like, oh, that's a great idea. We do need training. Could you go out and look for all the LD4 training that's relevant and compile a page for us? That's what this feels like to me. But yeah, there's already so much good stuff, especially in the Wikidata sphere because of LD4, that why reinvent the wheel? I mean,
Yeah, like this might be another area where we can kind of crowdsource amongst committee members. Like if you've got training that you've seen that you like and want to share it, here's a place to write that down for us.
yeah, we could do a survey as well, or in addition to Jill's idea of just like a crowdsource. Let's create a list somewhere. All of that would work, yeah. I'm trying to remember how much ISNI stuff exists. I wasn't involved in that pilot. I don't I don't know. Although we just did save the original Lyricist had hosted the ISNI pilot wiki space. And we saved that from being archived. We're like, no, it's too early, not yet. So anyway, there might be something there. I could go find that. And Leslie, if you don't have that, I'm happy to share that with you. Yeah, thanks, Mara. Okay. I feel like that was a pretty solid brainstorm. There's a lot there. Okay, I promised I'd stop talking. So what do you have things you want to share with one another, or um problems you kind of want to, I don't know, spitball, or how would you like to use the rest of this time, coordinators? Huge shout out to Eric. Thank you for taking notes.
Do you guys need anything from iMac?
I'm not going to speak for the Wikidata group, but we have a registry coordinator meeting coming up to be scheduled. If we think of anything that we need help with, then we'll get back to you.
Awesome. We're eager to help.
If I could just, I think I might have missed this point, but Sarah mentioned the EMCO training should be targeted for Wikidata. Are we thinking for like ISNI or WorldCat entities? Are you thinking that that's what we have the most documentation on right now, or are you talking about kind of in the future? I can't remember the context and just kind of want to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, can you hear me? Sorry, I'm just saying. I guess I was just thinking that for the breadth of resources that already exist that like have quality data for librarians, that any training that was developed as part of info should be very specific to and not necessarily like showing that this is how to create a data like with the basic level of data.
Sorry, I had a little bit of a hard time hearing you, but thank you, and we can. I think that probably on the other, different groups. I think Wikidata stuff will be super instructive for all the work that folks have done on that for like any of the other groups too. So yeah. Cool.
Okay. Well, if we don't have anything else to chat about, when is our next meeting? I should be more organized to know this. Is it October? No? Yes, it's October 2nd. Oh, I just saw Sarah's update. Thank you. Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay. All right. So next meeting, October 2nd. Maybe tell you what, we discussed a couple of really good substantive next steps that could be taken. But ultimately, you know your communities best, and you'll know what's going to resonate best, what people are just sort of ready to jump in and do. Why don't you go back to your communities and isolate what you would like to work on, and then let IMAC know how we can help. That would work. Anything else, IMAC folks? Hearing nothing.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Great.
Thank you, Dawn.
All right, we'll
Thank
give you
for
your time
that.
back. Thanks for checking in with us. It's good to see you all.
Thank you
Thanks, everybody.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks so
Bye. Take
much.
care.